exactly what I said it says. And as I said as well, it's been replicated 3 times in the last month. The London Times came out 3 weeks ago and said that the finding that gender differences maximize as egalitarian policies are developed is now one of the most solidly grounded findings ever produced by social scientists. So, you can make of that what you want. It's not something that I particularly enjoy. It just happens to be the case.
So what are the fake news about Jordan Peterson?
Oh, well, the fake news is one is that I'm provocative. The other is that I have a right-leaning or a particularly conservative agenda. And the mere fact that I oppose radical leftists...
You are conservative at heart, aren't you?
Not particularly. I don't have the temperament for it. So, for example, conservative people tend to be low in trait openness, which is associated with creativity, and I'm very high in trait openness. And so, temperamentally, I'm not much of a conservative at all. And people who knew me, people who come to my house, would certainly not think that I was a conservative person. So, or if they saw the breadth of my ideas, I'm also very entrepreneurially minded, which also is not associated with conservatism. I am a great skeptic of well-meaning attempts to adjust large social systems on the basis of ideology. But that doesn't make me conservative. It just makes me an educated social scientist.
So when are you provoked yourself?
When am I provoked myself? Oh, being called a Nazi I find somewhat provoking. That, I think, one of the most absurd days... No, certainly not. One of the most absurd days in my life in the last 2 years, and there's been plenty of them, was a day probably 3 months ago where I was accused by one magazine in the UK of being a Jewish shill and another magazine in the United States of being an alt-right Nazi. I thought, well, that's it. I pretty much covered both ends of the insult.
It's balance.
It's like, yeah, that's right. So you can average that out to 0, I suppose. So I find that somewhat provoking. But you take the good with the bad, and I'm not complaining about it. But it is provoking.
Is it true that you have an opinion about people having to stay married if they have children? I mean, we are divorced men here.
It's better if they do.
It's better for the children. I think most people would agree that that's the best. But as far as I understand, you think that the laws should say that we have to stay together.
Oh, it isn't obvious to me that the liberalization of the divorce laws in the 60s was for everyone's best interest. Exactly what that means, I'm not sure. I mean, it's okay for people to go to hell in a handbasket in their own particular means of choosing. But we do know that stable, intact, 2-parent families are better for children. So, it depends on who you put first. And look, I'm not saying that everyone who's got divorced is reprehensible. I understand that life is very difficult and that it's a very hard thing to maintain a relationship over a very long period of time. But it's not obvious to me that we're better off for the additional plethora of choices. So we'll see.
But isn't that an individual choice and not something the law should decide?
Well, it depends to some degree on whether the law should advocate for children. I mean, children really can't speak for themselves, can they? They need some authority to speak for them. And so we do know, like the data, for example, on child welfare indicates crystal clear that children from intact 2-parent families are better on virtually every measure that you could possibly imagine. So what are we supposed to make of that? It's irrelevant? It's like maybe the rule should be if you don't have children, then no problem. Divorce is no problem. But if you have children, and plus, it's not like divorce solves the problem with regards to your relationship with your ex. It often produces a whole boatload of problems that you didn't expect. So, but I'm not advocating draconian measures to keep people together who don't want to be together. That horse has already left the barn.
Will there be an age limit on the children where you can divorce, or?
Well, the older the children are, the less effect it has.
Yeah.
So, and at some point they're not children.
What's the ideal age?
For divorce?
Yes.
45, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what the average.
What about when you were a kid yourself? Who was your masculine role model?
Oh, I think I have a number of them, but it would probably primarily be my father. Some of my friends, because peers play an important role in development, especially after the age of about 4. But I would definitely say it was my father.
And how would you describe his masculinity?
Well, he spent a tremendous amount of time with me when I was a kid. And they're very fond memories as far as I'm concerned. Like when I was young, when I was very young, 2 and 3, my dad would come home from work. He spent an hour and a half with me a night for a long time, teaching me to read, which has been of inestimable benefit to me. And he did many things with me. You know, he hunted and trapped and canoed and fished and he was a harsh guy in many ways. He was a disciplinarian in some sense, but he was very honest and a very good craftsman. And so I learned a lot about trying to conduct yourself in a respectful manner for me. So,
were you a tough kid, or were you a careful kid, or what kind of kid?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you mean by tough. No, I don't think if you would have met me when I was a kid, you would have thought I was tough. I'm kind of a 10-year-hearted character, and I was skipped a grade, and I was small for my age, and so I certainly wasn't physically tough in the standard sense. Because I was small and because I knew ahead of grade, I was never particularly facile at sports, and that was kind of a problem. I did something about that when I got older, but I hung around with tough kids, but that was partly because most of the kids in the town I grew up in were either tough kids or were sort of off the radar entirely, and maybe that was a certain amount of compensation. I could defend myself verbally fairly well, but that tended to get me hung up by my shirt collar and closets and playing catch with on the stairs and that sort of thing in junior high. So,
is it like, do you come from an environment where weakness was a bad thing, where self-pity was a bad thing?
Where self-pity was a bad thing, I would say yes. From that time, that was part of the course, I would say, when I grew up. And I mean, where I grew up, it was still a frontier place in some sense. My town was only 50 and people were essentially self-reliant. To the degree that was possible, it was certainly the case within my family on both my mother and father's side. And the idea was, but this wasn't particularly, what would you say, unique to my family. You know, the ethos was feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to be of much utility. You should get out there and do what you can do and straighten your back. Yes, if you can do that. And I got lots of encouragement from my parents, from both of them. Certainly I had a very good relationship with my mother, who I loved very much. And we shared a sense of humor, which was lovely. And my dad, although he was a harsh taskmaster, also was very encouraging to me, in that he believed that I could do whatever I put my mind to. And he helped instill that conviction in a manner that I hope wasn't and isn't too, let's say, narcissistic. It wasn't a matter of privilege, it was a matter of drive and dedication and effort. And so that was one of the things that's so sad about what I'm doing. You know, I'm going all around the world. I'm talking to many people. I've talked to about 250,000 people in the last 6 months. And I offer encouraging words. You know, people, I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. I believe that if you turn around and confront the vulnerability as part and parcel of life, you'll find within yourself a strength that will transcend that. And I believe that not only to be true, but supported by the best clinical evidence. And that it's important for lost young people, male and female alike, to develop a vision and take on some responsibility and understand that they have a vital role to play in the world. That the lack of their best hurts everyone. I think that's true. And the sad thing is that there's very many people who have not heard an encouraging word in their life. And it takes so little to encourage them that it's rather tragic. I have people come up to me, and I mean all, and by all the time, I mean many people every day in the lectures and on the street who tell me, it's a bad place, I've been struggling, I've been watching your lectures, I've been reading your book, I put my life together, I'm trying to be responsible, tell the truth, things are way better. Thank you. So that's, can't get any better than that. So, and that's that.
Can I just come back to the divorce question? What is the best situation? To tell your children, we don't love each other anymore, but we're going to stay together for your sake, so that you'll have a semblance of a happy family life? Or to say, I'm sorry, this doesn't work, we'll continue to love you, but we're apart, and we'll love you the rest of our lives, and maybe on our different
sometimes, often, you have to make the best of a bad lot. You know, I mean, sometimes the best possible choice isn't there in front of you, and I would say, well, it's generally up to each person to decide under the circumstances which of those pathways forward would be likely to cause the least amount of misery. Well, you know, for you, for your wife, for your kids, you know, you have to balance all of that out. That's not an easy thing to do. I would also say that by the time it comes to the point where you're divorcing, all you may have left are one or two suboptimal choices. And you know, so part of what I do as well is to try to lecture about what sort of interactions might facilitate a marriage such that it's less likely to end up in a situation like that. Now, sometimes people have irreconcilable differences and there's nothing that can be done about it. But often people are not good at negotiating, partly because they won't admit what they want, because then they know if they're not getting it. They make their criteria for failure clear, and that frightens them, so they keep themselves vague. Because they don't know what they want, they can't communicate it to their partners. And they don't know how to do that anyways, because they're not very good at negotiating. And then they avoid conflict, and so then the conflict, because when you avoid conflict, all you do is store it up for the future. And, you know, I've seen lots of people on the brink of divorce and in horrible marital situations, horrible family situations, and, you know, they have 25,000 disputes that haven't been settled, and at that point it's like maybe divorce is the best option, but that doesn't mean that it was the best option from the beginning. So hopefully people can learn to negotiate and to tell each other the truth, and that will increase the probability that they can maintain their relationships in a stable manner. But, and I'm not suggesting, by the way, that you didn't do that, because I don't know anything about your situation. So,
but I wouldn't be surprised that you don't take into account super irrational people. That is like we can all just agree on these things and look at the science and we'll fix everything. That's not how it works.
Oh no, I don't think people are irrational at all, and I think that it's very difficult for us to negotiate. And it's amazing that we ever live in peace at all.
Yeah,
it's tremendously difficult.
So tell me, one last question. When are you irrational?
When I'm hungry.
What happens then?
Little things bother me far more than they would bother any reasonable person. So that's, and I would say, if you find that you're irrational like that frequently, one of the things you might try is to eat something.
And you have a peculiar diet. You have your.
You could say that again, yes.
What is it? What's the?
Well, there seems to be some sort of autoimmune condition in my family, and some of it's also reflected in my wife's family, unfortunately. And the culmination of that is that my daughter had an extraordinarily serious set of autoimmune dysfunctions that caused her an endless amount of misery and destruction. And she found out about 3 years ago, as a consequence of very, very careful experimentation, that if she ate nothing but meat, then all her symptoms disappeared. So, and her primary symptoms were degenerative bone disease that had been diagnosed as idiopathic arthritis, which means arthritis with no known cause. and she had her own organ hip replaced when she was 19 because of that, and had 38 other afflicted joints. So it was a cat. And she cottoned on to the fact that diet had something to do with it for a variety of reasons I can't go into, and radically restricted her eating, and all her symptoms disappeared.
So that is why you do it as well?
Yes, well, I had many, but not all of the same symptoms, and I watched what happened to her, and I thought, well, that's impossible, because it was, and she encouraged me to try it, and I thought, well, I can try anything for a month, you know, and so I started for a month, and I had changes almost immediately, and so I've continued with very restricted diet for about 2 years and extraordinarily restricted for the last 8 months. So and that seems to be working for me quite well. It has its downsides. Thank you very much.
Hope you enjoyed the clip. For more interesting content, please subscribe.
What do you think is the influence of colleges, and how do you feel about the current educational system period?
I think universities are making 7 fatal errors. Apparently, it seems to be fine. If a woman wants to play a patriarchal role, that seems to be perfectly fine. It's corrupt, but it's okay if women occupy the positions of power. It's like, okay.
What do you not know a lot about that if asked about, you don't really have that strong of an opinion or research on those topics?
You have a moral duty to supersede the accomplishments of the person who bore that name and gave it its weight before you dare capitalize on it in the public sphere. And Trudeau did none of that.
We're never going to see Prime Minister Jordan Peterson. That's not in the equation. So look, we've got a lot of guests on Valuetainment, but one of the most highly requested guests ever by you on Valuetainment has been Dr. Jordan Peterson, clinical psychologist, professor at University of Toronto, as well as the author of 12 Rules for Life. Dr. Jordan Peterson, thanks for joining us here with Valuetainment. So, yes, definitely, it's good to have you. You know, this, if you don't know Dr. Jordan Peterson, I would say total views, because I've seen some of your views, 50 million on Facebook, 80 million. Some stuff has gone completely viral. I'd say total of 1 billion views, give or take, maybe even more than that with your content that's on YouTube, Facebook, all over the place. People now know the name Dr. Jordan Peterson. And the part I want to spend some time talking to you about today is a couple things. One, obviously a lot of people who interview you, they're going to talk to you about politics, religion, postmodernism, all of these things, and maybe we'll get into some of that stuff. But what I'm very curious about with you is the following. One is who Jordan Peterson was growing up, right? I mean, you read the stories about at 13 years old, you were given a book and you started studying some of Ayn Rand, George Orwell, and some of these books that were given to you. And then from there, you have other inspirations that came up. And I think at one point at Harvard, you studied drugs and alcohol and addiction, reasoning. Why did you get addicted? I'm sitting there.
Well, first, I'm not very tall. I was younger than most of you.
Okay.
So I was 5'2".
Really?
So, yeah. And so I suppose that made me a bit more agile verbally than I might have otherwise been. Most of my friends were working class guys. Most of them quit school in junior high and early in high school. Most of the friends that I had in high school were very comical people. Or little tiny town, even north of where I grew up, there was almost nothing. They were extremely comical people, so old jokes. I spent a lot of time driving around on the country listening to music, drinking beer with my friends out in the bush.
In high school. That's great.
Well,
beer helps you think the way you think. Right? I guess that's
well,
the recipe.
Some long winters in northern Alberta. Not a tremendous amount of beer. Well, it's not good. That was me in high school. I read all the time.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I read a book.
Are you kidding?
You know, most of it's science fiction. And maybe huge science fiction. Like Wall. I read science fiction like that. Yeah, that was my goal.
Now, are you a speed reader? Do you go through?
I'm very fast.
Were you always fast back then as well?
Yeah, I learned to read when I was very young. My father taught me to read when I was very young, and I'm very fast.
Did he teach you how to fast read, or were you just started reading, so that was something that was very?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say specifically he taught me to speed read. He just taught me to read, and I guess I'm relatively fast at it. So that's been a very useful thing for me.
So your dad had a big influence on you.
Yeah. He spent a lot of He spent a lot of time with me when I was a little kid. You know, I used to come home every night. We'd spend an hour or so reading. He had music. He had a workbook, which I still have, that all the phonics, all the sounds of all the letters, the sounds of all the two-letter combinations, all of that. He went over that every night, and that happened. My mom, well, she was trained as a nurse. Library, local college, and she is both my parents just a lot. She has a good sense of humor. And I still do sometimes on purpose.
And so has humor always been part of your MO? Like, have you always been somebody that
Yeah, definitely. That was a big part of the culture.
I'm funny with a lot of Canadians, and we drank a lot of coke, and you guys are funny people.
Yeah.
They know how to have fun.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of Canadian comedians.
Yeah, that's right.
We export them down to the States, so you guys have something to laugh
We need
about.
your help, because we need some good Canadians down there, right? So, but
You better be funny if you're going to live through a Canadian winter.
That's a good point. You definitely
You better
need to.
You better be amusing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was an important thing. Like a lot of what we did was when we were kids, adolescents in particular, was just try to sit around and amuse each other.
With your dad.
Witty, sarcastic comments.
I grew up I was in the military, so this is very normal for us. We
Right.
like witty, we like sarcasm. Some people have a hard time with that, but
I think it's more of a working class thing, you know.
I think so as well. That's
and
a
I
good
really
point.
miss it. I really like it because as I sort of moved up the ranks, let's say, on the academic side, that became less and less common.
You get your wit from that side, or you think that's part of the DNA? You were born being witty, or because you were in an environment that you had to be witty to survive? So the person
Oh yeah,
doesn't
that was
tell the
definitely
last
part
joke.
of it. Well, it was also because I was small and mouthy. It was very useful to be sarcastic and witty too, because it was the only defense that I had, really.
That's a good
So,
point.
you know, people would come after me. I mean, everybody gets, there's lots of physical back and forth in junior high and high school. Defend himself reasonably well when I come, so.
I think Ben Shapiro has a similar story.
Yeah.
He's a similar thing. Because he was a year ahead, and it's a year, you know, and he was always smaller, so he had to figure out a way to stand up, and he was getting bullied. I don't think you're
don't
saying
mess with
bullied,
Shapiro,
though,
man.
No,
Oh man, yeah, he's
the way
fast.
he is,
It's quite impressive. I've
Yes,
watched
he
him
is.
lots of times on YouTube.
Yeah.
You want to mess with him at your peril.
Yeah, we've had him on Right-Tending before, and the way he thinks is also very interesting, how he processes issues. So let me ask you, when you said your dad was teaching you how to read from 3 years old, and he's going through it, and then all of a sudden you pick up, you start reading the book a day, would you also have dialogues with your dad? Hey, Dad, what do you think about this?
No, I wouldn't say, not
Okay,
so much.
that's
No,
interesting.
Dad's quite introverted. And,
Really?
Yeah,
So there
yeah.
wasn't a debate type of a format?
No.
So
No.
your family wasn't, I can't believe Prime Minister...
No, very little. Very little. Dad figured he would have been happy if he would have been born 100 years earlier. And he grew up in a log cabin, literally. And he grew up in this well, my friends Canada, Western Canada, was about 100 years behind. Yes. And so his parents were from his parents were you know, he's a hunter and a trapper and a fisherman. He likes to be outside. He likes to spend time alone, although he's got close friends, but these are people that he mostly does these, you know, this hunting and fishing with. I mean, he was a teacher. He was the fire chief in our local town. He ran a huge fish and game association, imported elk to northern Alberta. There were no elk up there before the organization brought them up there. So, but that was his life. And he's a gunsmith and a gun collector. He has like, I don't know how many guns. And so that's his culture, his life. And it wasn't ever something that I was really part of. I mean, I went hunting with them, I went fishing and trapping with them. We used to camp all the time when I was a kid. We weren't a particularly political family, or a philosophically oriented family for that matter. I mean, my dad's very smart.
Philosophically oriented family?
No.
Was it a religious family? Was it a church family?
Not really.
Was it let's read the Bible every day, let's pray?
Oh, no, definitely.
Really? So where did the debate come from? Where did your ability to be able to listen, process, respond, where did that ability come from? Was it when you went into academia as a post?
Yeah, probably. I think to some degree it's a natural ability. I mean, even when I was a graduate student, when I was first teaching, I seemed to be good at the classes that I taught as a graduate student. And that was without any previous students who were popular. And then I'm now teaching and lecturing. And I also very seldom rely on notes. I mean, that's what to begin with. When you don't know a topic, you have to scaffold the conversation with notes. But I always was very loose with stuff. I would prepare a lot before. Right. When PowerPoint first came out, I used it more. I relied on it once I was accustomed to I learned to do that, and I practiced it. You just try to stay farther and farther away from your notes as you
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I'm saying, do you role play it? Do you sit there with the notes first and then you set it aside?
No. Usually what I do, that's a good question. I mean, first of all, I try to be over-prepared in some sense. So, I mean, I believe that if you're going to give a 20-minute lecture, you've got an hour of material at hand, because that way you have an opportunity to sort of move spontaneously through the material. But generally what I do now, because I have a lot of material at hand, a lot of stories and a lot of things that knowledge that I've accrued over the years, usually before a lecture, and this is the hard part, and I can do a lecture without doing this, but it's better if I do this. This is the hard part. I'll sit down for 20 minutes with my eyes closed, and I figure out what the central topic is. So there's always a question. What's the question I'm trying to address in this lecture? And then I'll figure out a pathway through it. So, okay, well, here's the argument, here's number one, and there's possible branches off those. And then with each point, I usually have a collection of stories and facts that I can use to make the point. Yeah, and to buttress the negative system. And so it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit like improvisation of jazz, improvisation of piano. So you lay out the story, and then you can use the responses of the audience to guide how you're going to walk through it.
You have to have that ability.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So are you the kind that you can put set degrees, set
I don't think like that. No, it's not. I know I've known people like that. I had professors.
But you seem like you may have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Because the way
I don't organize myself that way. I knew professors at Harvard, one particular professor, who was a walking and he extraordinarily well-read person, very, very smart, very fascinating. And that's really how he seemed to organize his knowledge. He would know the author, he would know the page, he'd know the source, he'd know what the book was on the shelf. I'm not like that.
I thought you were for
So I have a theory that I've been working on for a very long time. And what happens when I read something is I plug it into a theory. So I know that the full outline of it, 45, 50 hours to lay it out directly. I've done that online. And then, but I just close, and then I put everything. So if I read something, I think, oh yeah, that slot's there. And so
you store it as well. If somebody asks a question, you use that fact, you have it somewhere still where you can say, okay.
But it has to be related to this work that I've been doing over time.
Got it.
Got it. It's kind of like there's this technique called memory castle that people use for centuries to remember things. And so what you do is you sit and you imagine it might be a place that you know, like a geographic place, a house. And then you can place the things that you remember, and then you walk through the house. You can place the things that you want to remember at different locations in the house. But you have to turn what you're remembering into an image. And then you can walk through the house and lift things up and find what it is that you're trying to remember. I sort of do that with the spirit. So I know the story, I know its shifting pieces of life. So that's how I remember things. And I forget a lot of them. But now and then something pops up and it sticks.
That changes the complete perspective for me a little bit. For me to know that your views obviously have been invested for many years, you're also constantly working on it. I guess this is one of that question for me. I think from my opinion, I think as an business here on Mountain Community where we do entertainment, I believe the people that make it to the top of the stage, they don't have a constitution better than us. They learn how to put things together, a system that helps them make a good decision. And then from there, they come out with their opinion, maybe based on some facts, based on whatever they collect together, data, to say, this is what I believe about God. This is what I believe about politics. Here's how I view economics. This is what I think works. This is what I think is going to be on the four lines. Like, here's what I think voice is work. What is your process? The topic enters your mind. How are you taking the next necessary step to come up with an answer or belief that you're very comfortable saying, this is what I believe. I know one of the questions you have is answer, do you believe in God? And your response is phenomenal because you said, one, I don't know what believe, and two, I don't know what God is. Because you will believe in God and you got to know that. So that's a very interesting idea for us to hear when a new topic comes out. Everybody goes to the root of the camera, right? And you come out and, afterwards, well, I think you need to...
Well, I think
but I want to know, like, what you step up and love to do that part.
Well, I can think of things. So if I'm building things, I like to do carpentry and fix houses and that sort of thing. And so I like to build things. And if I'm figuring out how to build something, I can picture it. And so I can think in pictures. But I don't usually think in pictures. I usually think in words. And I think pretty formally.